This show is brought to you by listeners and viewers like you. Evanex.com Tesla accessories, our TeslaOwnersOnline.com community, and our Patreon supporters at patreon.com/TeslaOwnersOnline. Hello, everyone. It's time again for another episode of the Tesla Owners Online Show. Hey, it's March 4th, and I'm joined by both Eric and Ian. Today is a big day because we are going to do something a little different. I thought, actually, Eric had the thought last time we did the show, during our discussions in the post-show, that I thought it would be kind of interesting to sit down and have a little chat between the three of us, because I don't think a lot of our listeners and viewers really know a lot about us personally. So Eric floated the idea, and I thought, sure, why not? And then, of course, we went out and solicited questions from our listeners and our viewers today, and certainly some of you guys have delivered, so we're going to get into that. But today's an important day because it's March 4th, and it marks the first anniversary of the Fast EV Lightning Run. Did I get that right, Ian?
Yes, you did.
Okay, good. That Ian and I undertook last year, where we decided to cross Canada as fast as possible from one end of the country to the other. So we embarked on the trip at 10 a.m. Pacific time from Tsawwassen, which has the furthermost westmost supercharger on the mainland. A lot of people said, well, why didn't you start in Victoria? No, we wanted to start on the mainland. So we started there, and then we went all the way over to the last supercharger in Enfield, Nova Scotia. So that's the last one on the mainland. We had planned the whole trip in a better route planner. And what was the number, Ian? Was 72 hours? Is that what it estimated?
It depended. The thing with better route planner is you can put a lot of variables in, right? So you can play with temperature, weight of the car, all sorts of things. So I was getting numbers, depending on the temperature I plugged in, anywhere between 68 and 74 hours. So 72 seemed pretty reasonable. And I think we could have done it. It's funny, I rewatched the show for the first time in a long while today, and I looked at all of our log sheets for the stops, and it was there. 72 hours in winter was there, but I think it could well be knocked down into the 60s and stuff.
Well, most of the discrepancy, because we did it in 73 hours, 27 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And it was, most of the discrepancy was just small things like human error. Like we undercharged at one point, we overcharged a little bit. I mean, there were some variables in there. But yeah, it was actually quite surprising that we did that. Of course, then COVID hit, and our record still stands to this day, as far as I know. By the way, thank you to our friend Aaron Brighton, who gave us the commemorative shirts. He went online and grabbed a whole bunch of pictures of us and had these sublimated shirts made. So anyways, if you're wondering what the heck we're wearing, that's what it's all about.
That's awesome, Aaron. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So any thoughts about the trip, Ian? Like, what do you recall? Like, what's the most memorable moment?
Well, a large part of it was what led up to it, and we've never really talked about on the show what really happened. I mean, I think anybody who was following it in real time remembers that I got really, really sick, and that was no joke. I'd caught pneumonia, so that wound up delaying the whole trip and stranding poor Trevor out in Vancouver.
Well, it was an impromptu mini vacation for a week. Oh yeah, I complained lots about that.
You did, yeah. Poor dude, stuck in beautiful, sunny that week, plus 10.
It was nice
Vancouver,
and warm.
in the middle of a Canadian winter. Exactly. Mm-hmm. I don't think you were doing so bad.
No.
But the horror of the pneumonia going out there. I hadn't been that sick in 20 years, at least, something like that. So that still stuck. Should we tell the story of what happened?
Yeah, I think. Well, you had told the story on somebody else's show and stuff, but not on this one. So I think it's time, like a year later, let's tell the actual story. Yeah. What really happened with your delay?
Well, exactly. So it was really by happenstance. It seemed horrible at the time, but it turned out to be the best thing because, as you all know now, I was very ill during that period. But as I was driving out on the original schedule to meet Trevor, I was supposed to arrive on the Sunday. In late February, and I got a little stop on the way. I was hauling up one of the passes in near Golden. I was maybe about 30 minutes east of Golden, British Columbia. And I've been warned repeatedly by my friend John. He's the kind fellow in Calgary, my long friend who housed me both during the visit and then my subsequent sickness. He said, dude, when you cross into British Columbia, be very, very careful. They are very strict about speed limits. I'm like, yeah. He says, Are you listening to me? You sure you understand? Yeah. I get it. But he knew how anxious I was to get out there. So anyway, I get out there and, of course, I'm stuck behind a long, endless procession of trucks. And the Trans-Canada at that point is single lane for a good portion of the time. So I finally see this area where there's like 5 18-wheelers in front of me plodding along at 85 kilometers an hour, like 50 miles an hour. I'm losing my mind. It's like, oh God, I got to get past these guys. So we're going up this long hill and I can see there's a passing lane that starts up ahead. So I was like, but it's covered in salt and crap. I can't see the lines. So like, I'm going to go for it now. Pull out, mat it, bring it up to about 135, which is what, I guess about 85 miles an hour or something like
Sounds
that.
About right.
Yeah. And for the first time in 2 days, what comes straight down the road in the oncoming lane at me? An RCMP car, which has moving radar on it. So I'm like, oh, this isn't good. So whoop, I tuck back in. I figure I'm going to get a big ticket. Oh, well, that's life, literally in the fast lane. What are you going to do? Be a big boy, smile and grin and bear it.
Yeah.
So I pull over immediately, don't want to give them any extra more trouble. So they come in behind me. Hello, sir. Do you know what you're doing? Yeah, I think I was going a little quick. I was just passing this. Yes, you were passing over a double line. Ooh, okay, it was double line back there. I literally couldn't see it. I mean, I could show you the dash cam. You couldn't see squat. But apparently that zone was still double line. But the big problem was I was going, according to the radar, exactly 134 kilometers an hour in a 90 zone. And anything more than 40 kilometers an hour, which is about 25 miles an hour, over the speed limit on the highway in British Columbia means they impound your car for 7 days. Yeah, that was about exactly the sound I made when they told me this. And he seemed to be saying it with a great deal of regret because, I told him, like, look, I've been traveling across the country. I'm doing this thing, and I'm a very responsible driver. And I mean, to show them my driving record, they can look it up on the computer. It's been clean forever, So they were super apologetic about it, the nicest guys, but they said, you have to understand we have to get draconian because apparently something like 10 people a month are getting killed on those highway passes in British Columbia just because of all of the harebrained maneuvers they're doing, So I fell into that category. I had no excuse. But my world was like ending in that moment because I'm thinking, oh my God, the car is gone for 7 days. I'm in the middle of the province. There's like nothing to do, nowhere to go. There's no airport for 3-4 hours. Like, what the hell am I going to do? You can't even rent a car in Golden, BC. Like, there's nothing to do. I figured that's it. I'm going to be stuck in a hotel here for 7 days, feeling miserable for myself. Anyway, turns out while I'm in the middle of despair and like I have the 2 RCMP officers now 20 minutes into this, we're waiting for the tow truck to show up and they can see that I'm like suicidal. They're trying to cheer me up. This is how nice the RCMP are. They're actually trying to cheer me up and say, listen, it's not so bad. And, and oh man, they felt as bad as I did at this point, So finally, in the middle of my wallowing in self-pity, what pulls up in front of me is the tow truck. And then I realize, that's the guys from Highway Through Hell. I couldn't believe it. It was
TV
Jamie
show.
Davis towing. Yeah, the big red tow trucks that if you've ever watched that show on Discovery Channel, they're super famous. They've seen in 140 countries. So I'm like, I have this incredible fanboy meltdown. It's Jamie Davis towing. Woo, they're going to tow my car. Like all of a sudden I'm excited about the prospect of having my car towed by Jamie Davis towing. This is what sort of an idiot I am. Anyway, so yeah, they put the car on the thing and, he's got the dollies for it and whatever. And he sets it all up right. Unfortunately, he didn't have a flatbed available. It would have been 6 hours to wait for a flatbed. But he put it on the dollies and everything was fine, secured the car, did a super good job. And of course, now it's got to go to the impound yard. And I mean, I was terrified that it was going to go to like, Guido's impound yard or something, with like the typical treatment you would expect. But no, I got to the Jamie Davis tow yard and everybody there was super, super nice about it. And they found a little spot for it and I said, guys, we have to keep this car out of sight because there's the whole project behind it. And I don't want the world to know it got impounded before we went across the country for a dumbest reason imaginable, So I'm like, but they were super nice about it. They found a little spot. They even ran an extension cord, like 100 feet of 120 volt extension cord, heavy gauge stuff out from one of their warehouses to the yard so they could keep it charged for me all week. I mean, I can't say enough about them. And then it turns out Brandon, who you see on the show, he's Jamie's stepson, turns out to be a huge Tesla fan. So when the car gets into the yard, his eyes light up and he comes running out and he's asking me 1,000 questions. And I'm like, bro, when this thing is freed of jail, you're welcome to take it for a test drive. And that's where it became public again. When you see me show up to pick up the car a week later, for a test drive with Jamie, and we did a little interview in the car, and I threw it out there on Twitter, and it turns out he's ordering a Cybertruck for the rescue operation.
Very nice.
So yeah, he should be one of the first to get it, and he's going to do it up, in the Jamie Davis colors and everything. So we had a blast driving the car around, talking. It was supposed to go on the show, but at the last minute, the camera crew that was going to film us got called away because of a wreck or something like that. So yes, I don't like to think that I deceived all our faithful viewers and listeners throughout that time. But the funny part of that story is, had the car not been impounded, as you all know, I had a violent reaction to some medications about a day and a half, 2 days later, for which I was nearly hospitalized. And had that not happened, this would have happened in the middle of Canada. Well, we're cannonballing our way across the country. It would have destroyed it, yeah, because I had a meltdown. I mean, I thought I was dying. Like, I didn't know.
You ended up getting what? The paramedics coming to see you at 1.2?
Yeah, the paramedics had to come to the house. My heart rate was through the roof. I was having a really, really bad reaction to these super powerful antibiotics that they put me on. So after about 6 hours, it went away, and they switched me to another med. But it still took me a good week to recover from pneumonia.
So it worked out.
It did. In the end, having the car towed was the best possible thing that could have happened. It saved the whole project. So, I mean, how weird is that?
Yeah, I remember that because I was walking downtown, just taking in Vancouver, and I get the phone call, and then you said, "Oh, there's something I have to tell you." I'm like, "Oh no, now what?" And then as soon as you said impound, I'm like, "Oh no." And then when you said it was 7 days, I'm like, "Oh no." Anyways.
Yeah.
We still managed to complete it. It took us an extra 7 days, for the start of it and stuff, but it was still successful. We had a great time. For those of you who have not seen the video, maybe you're new to the channel, whatever, I'll try and remember to put links in the video description and the podcast description where you guys can actually see it. But it was fun. Let me see here. What do I remember? Well, the community was amazing because everybody was cheering us on. I was running that Glimpse app on my phone so people could see us live where we were going, including our bathroom stops, because everybody's like, what the hell is he doing?
You see all these little dotted lines inside the hotel.
Yeah, that's a bathroom break, guys. So yeah, it was really great. And then of course, when we got to Halifax, I mean, people followed us the whole way, and they were very supportive. And then the wonderful group there, including Maggie in Halifax, was super nice to us. Took us for dinner and met us down at the water. Matter of fact, they even escorted us from the Enfield Supercharger right down to the water and stuff. So
we had our own parade.
Good times. Good memories from that. And it, when I sit down and I think about it, part of me is like, God, that feels like forever ago. But then in other ways, it felt like it was just like yesterday.
I think it's like that with a lot of things over the past years for a lot of people. Anything significant that anybody out there did, I think we all feel the same way. It's like it does seem like a lifetime ago, and yet not all that long ago, because we've all been part in our houses, and that's kind of our frame of. It's the last big thing I did in the outside world.
Because literally, when we got back, it was around the 13th or something, and then we went in lockdown on the 15th. So we've been pretty much down ever since. So that's literally the last time that we did anything really major.
We were back in the office for a week before we got shut down. But yeah, I mean, that's, your dad, Trevor, put it best by saying, that's something you should really document and keep all the souvenirs, because it was like, that was a lifetime high, that trip doing that. That was so much fun. I'm itching to do it again. I got to tell you.
We need to do it with more people next time. I think it'd be.
Yeah, that's the plan. We've talked about it.
All I know is every time you guys are traveling to go somewhere, between Trevor's passport and the backpack under his office desk, or you having your car impounded, it's never what happens on the trip. It's what leads to getting there that you guys always get in trouble. I am not traveling with you anywhere. I will just meet you there, and we'll be fine.
Good times.
That's very, very wise, Eric. Very wise. There's enough evidence to support that.
And right now, the Canadian government is saying, the hell with you Americans. So right now, I can't even get to see you guys if I wanted to.
Yeah. Good times anyways. We had a really good time. And again, like I said, if you haven't watched the video and stuff, I'm trying to remember, go through our back catalog and stuff. But I'll put a link and you guys can certainly check it out. Let me see here. There was something else I was going to say about the trip too, but it just escaped me. But anyways. All right. Well, so that's our news. That's what we wanted to talk about. That's our 1 year anniversary. It took us 3 days to drive out there. So, we started today a year ago. So in a couple of days' time, that's when we actually finished the trip. FineLab has a line of protective coatings that were engineered to protect your Tesla's paint, leather, carpet, plastic, and wheels, effectively blocking all those UV rays and environmental factors before they ever get to ruin your brand new baby. FineLab offers a complete line of car care products and ceramic coatings for both the do-it-yourselfer and professional detailers. Did we mention we also have the world's first self-healing coating? Check us out at finelab.com, that's spelled F-E-Y-N-L-A-B, to see the science behind the self-healing. Check out our product catalog and click Contact Us for a free quote from a certified installer in your area. FineLab and Tesla, we were meant for each other. As I said before we were going to get into this whole thing, that we were going to sit down and not do a lot of Tesla stuff today. So if you're expecting a lot of Tesla stuff, that's not happening on this podcast. But I thought we'd take the opportunity, as Eric had suggested, to get to know, give our audience a chance to understand who we are, where we came from, what do we do. We took some audience questions as well. So with that, who wants to start?
I vote that Eric take the lead on this, because
Okay.
I think you had the concept, and no, but
All right.
you're an excellent interviewer. Like,
Eric
you have
is,
the whole idea. I'm terrible at this stuff. It's like, if you're not asking me a specific technical question that has a specific technical answer, I'm hopeless. It's not gonna
Right.
work.
You're like the guy that sort of like hovers in the forums. Like, just ask a question I can answer, and your fingers are right at the keyboard typing. You're like, oh,
Yes.
I got this.
That's me. That's
Got it.
exactly.
So let's start with this. Let's start from the beginning. Your mom and dad fell in love. No, let's not do that. So I'll start with Ian. So everyone knows on the show you are our guru when it comes to anything round, right? Wheels, tires, soda cans, whatever it is. When it comes to something cylindrical like your head, you're pretty knowledgeable about the stuff. Take us back to what got you interested in automobiles in general, because your experience with automobiles is very vast. And you pretty much have disassembled cars and reassembled them just for fun on a weekend. But what got you started? What got you interested in automobiles from way back when?
You know, it's funny. You read people's stories who are into a specific thing their entire lives, and you can trace it almost back to birth. And it sounds kind of corny, but for me, that was the case. I mean, from the moment I was cognizant of the fact there were objects that moved, I had a fascination with cars. Like, my mom always used to say, you were so much happier that by the time you hit the height, you could actually see out the window and you could see what was making those sounds. And that's all I would stare at all day long. You know, and I'm sure there's many of our listeners and viewers who are, if you're a gearhead, you're the same. Like, you could tell that same story of about 5 years old, you could name every car on the road, right? Well, I was one of those kids. And to me, it wasn't just a mechanical fascination. I mean, there's a very strong emotional attachment to machines, and cars in particular, to me, are the most emotionally involving things that I get to play with. They have spirit, character, soul. I mean, everyone that I've ever driven, whether it's good or bad, is debatable, but they have such strong personalities. So that stayed with me my whole life. So there was no question from childhood. I knew I was going to work in the car business. My dream growing up as a teenager was to become an automotive journalist, because I loved English. Those were my best classes, and writing and all that stuff. But the thing is, as an English kid growing up in Quebec, you know, in the 1970s, I couldn't imagine. It's like, well, you know, we only have 1 or 2 English newspapers, and they don't really review cars. So it just didn't occur to me that was a job possibility. And I wound up going into the aftermarket accessory business. And from there, it just went up and up and up and up to kind of where I am today.
And what year was it that you transitioned from going into journalism, or where you would aspire to be a journalist, to getting into the automotive sector that you're in now?
Well, I kind of let the automotive journalist thing die, like I said, probably around the time I got my driver's license, when I was 16 years old. So I sort of clued in at that point, like, no, I better take another course. And I just bumped from, I went to 3 different CEGEPs. That's like, CEGEP is college, essentially, in Quebec. And I went through 3 different programs. I did electrotechnology for a year. I did 2 years of mechanical engineering technology. And then, complete right turn, I went into theater technology. And none of them hooked me the same way. It's like, no, I got to get back into cars somehow. And I remember very specifically, both my parents were in education. You know, my mom was in charge of the English Catholic Teachers Union for the province of Quebec, and my dad was president of the Canadian Association of Principals. They were both like really high up educators. My sister wound up becoming a teacher. I was the black sheep of the family. It's like, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I remember clear as day, like it was yesterday, walking into my mom's office after class one day and saying, you know what, 3 different schools, nothing's resonating. I want to go work at the auto drugstore. That was Mecca. Auto drugstore was like the coolest car shop in all of Montreal at the time. This is mid 1980s. It was like Beverly Hills Auto for all of us old fogies who remember Road and Track and all of the great magazines, that had the ads of these fantastic car accessory shops that did mail order. So we had our own version of that in Montreal, and I could live there, like, all of the Momo steering wheels and ANSA exhaust systems. It was paradise. So I was like, I want to go work there. And my mom, without beating, like not even heartbeat, not even blinking an eye, said, well, do it. If that's your passion, go do it. I was like, but aren't you an educator? Aren't you all about, no. She says, if that's really what you want to do, go do it. So at that point, there was no turning back. So I literally drove out of her office, drove to the auto drug store, spoke to the owner, who I knew, and I said, listen, man, nothing else is doing it for me. I want to work here. And he looked at me like kind of with a, the crooked dog head look and goes, are you psychic or something? Like, why? It's like, my top sales guy just gave me his notice today. I mean,
it was meant to be.
Kismety is that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So it was kind of like, wow. So yeah, he made me an offer on the spot kind of thing. And I started the very next day.
How meaningful was it? And you sort of mentioned this a couple of times, for your mom to be as supportive as she was of your ambitions?
I think very. I mean, both of my parents had a very strong influence on me. My dad was the strong, silent type. Well, he was very gregarious. Like, he's the life of the party everywhere else. And he'd come home. And you know the Bugs Bunny cartoon with the little frog that dances there? And
right.
He gets hello, baby. Hello, my darling. Yeah. You put him on stage and he'd be like, ribbit. That was my dad. At home, he was ribbit. Out in public, oh my God.
Yeah.
So, like, he was kind of suspicious of the whole thing, but but it was always, well, what does your mother think? And my mother was like, oh, Steve, that's what he wants to do. Let the boy follow his dream type of thing. She was so cool that way. So yeah, it meant a lot to me. I was very spoiled as a kid. I got to say, overall, I had the most amazing childhood imaginable. And I never stopped to appreciate it, I think, until I was well into my late 20s. I had no idea. I just thought, well, isn't everybody's life glorious like this? We get to do what we want and run around and do stupid things and break stuff. And your parents just go, don't do that again.
Right.
So yeah, it wasn't even a question.
You spend a little bit of time in the audio business too? I thought you said something.
Yeah. Wow. Good memory, Trev. I had a very small break. I guess it was around 1990, something like that. I took 6 months off to get my private pilot's license, with the goal of eventually going on to a commercial. I'm only 25 hours away from having a commercial license.
Oh,
actually.
wow.
Yeah, I was this close. And then of course, met a girl, which is where all stories take a right turn, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the pilot thing never happened. But while I was doing that, I started another job in another field. It was just easier time-wise. And I was the service manager for a home audio shop in the West Island in Montreal called La Boutique Électronique, if Montrealers remember that place. So yeah, I ran their service department for a number of years. That was crazy. That place was like an episode of MASH every day. Oh my God.
I've heard, you mentioned a few stories, and
yeah,
it reminds me of my early days when I was working in the computer stores. But
very similar to what you've told us about that, which you should elaborate on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ian, now that you're in this space where you have not only all this experience and knowledge, but you're also doing a lot of writing. So how does it feel to finally merge the two things that you loved doing when you were younger, and now as an adult be able to do both?
It's kind of incredible, it's really weird how I felt through time, like all of these things kind of align. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it as I'm telling you guys a story. And as you phrase the question, it's the first time I'm sort of appreciating to what point that happened. And it's really weird because, yeah, I get to write all the technical documents, like all of our instructions, all of the basically all of the materials that go out to our OEM customers for the wheel programs. There's a lot of very technical stuff in there that has to be distilled into some understandable form. I feel like that guy in Office Space who has to translate stuff between the engineers and the sales department. At which point they're like, well, why can't the salespeople just talk directly to the engineer? Can't have salespeople talking. Yeah. Are you crazy? So I'm that guy. It's fun to be able to use those skills. 100%. It's very satisfying to do that. Yeah.
So Trevor, let's kind of sort of the same thing with you. A lot of us know that you're very geeky, very techie. You do a lot of private stuff yourself as an independent employee. But let's go back to your youth and what led you into the world of technology as you now know it.
Ooh, well,
if you need 2 hours, we got time.
No, I think some of my stuff kind of mirrors what Ewan was saying. Ever since I was a little kid, I was always fascinated with anything mechanical, electronic. My mother loves to tell stories of me taking the record player apart to figure out how it works, and sometimes putting it together. Other times, maybe not. I remember my brother and I had gotten these walkie-talkies, these big things that look old brick phones. And when they stopped working, I took it apart because I just wanted to see the insides and how things worked that ways. My dad was, well, he's still alive, so he's very much a tinkerer. He always had cars. We had snowmobiles, all that stuff. And my dad was always, as my mother called it, he was always puttering, right? He was always doing something. When we were kids, Ian, you'll know this, we had a ski boost, right?
Yeah, you had the exact same setup we do.
Exactly. So a ski boost, for those who don't know, it's a little trailer for kids that go behind a snowmobile. Sometimes they're tandem, sometimes they're side by side. My dad had bought one that was side by side, and it was Bombardier yellow and with the black stripes, and he bought us these skull caps and stuff, and he painted them to match that. That's the kind of stuff that my dad would do. So I got my interest in anything mechanical just from being around my dad all the time. My dad has a couple classic cars. Whenever he has trouble with something, he calls me on the phone if it's electrical or whatever the case may be. Mechanical stuff he can handle. Electrical stuff he has a tougher time with. But he will call me about those kind of things. So I've always been around cars, always been around that stuff. I was late to the car game. Like, I didn't buy my first car until I was about 23, 22, something like that. But since then, I've gone through a lot of cars because I'm the type of person when it comes to mechanical stuff is like, and Ian knows this because of my personality, I'm a goal-oriented person. So I'll set myself a goal mentally. Once I achieve it, I get bored and I move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So cars are exactly the same thing. I'd buy a car, I get bored with it, sell it, buy something else. I've probably gone through 25 different cars.
Oh my gosh.
Every make, model, you can imagine it. That's just something I do because it's a new adventure. It's just something fun. So that's where my mechanical stuff comes from. It's also parlayed into when I was in my, let me think here. I was about 30. Yeah. When I turned about 30, I wanted to get into aviation. At first I went to, and I didn't know where to start. I couldn't afford to get a private pilot's license. So I started looking around at alternatives. The first thing I had found was there was a glider club close to me. So I went to the glider club and I asked who does training. And it was a very cliquey little club. And unless you're already in on the inside, nobody wanted to talk to you. So I managed to scooch, I think, one or two rides out of somebody down there, but nobody really wanted to train me. And after that ride, I had fun, but the thing that I took away from the glider thing, as fun as it was like, well, you're always dependent on somebody else to tow you up. And I was like, I don't want that kind of thing. Like, for me, the airplane had to be like a motorcycle. Get on it and do what you wanted to do. So after much research, I decided that I was going to get my ultralight pilot's license, and that's exactly what I did. So I got my license around about 98 or 99, I think it was. And I also owned 3 aircraft over the time. So I built, let me see, I actually built 3 of the aircraft. And each one was progressively more advanced. The last airplane I built took me 2.5 years to build, over 10,000 rivets, and built from scratch, all metal.
Wow.
But as it turns out, I ended up enjoying the building experience more than the flying experience. It's just one of those things. So I gave it up. I gave it up in 2006 or 2007. I haven't looked back. I don't really miss it. It's just one of those things. I did that. I mean, I wanted to learn how to scuba dive. I did that. Got it out of my system. So there's a lot of things, like I said, it ties into my personality. Once I reach something, I want to move on to the next thing. So that's basically where it comes from. And of course, my love of electronics now and cars is perfect for the Tesla thing because it's a marriage of both of those things, right?
Do you find that your affinity for Legos and those building kits, I know you're into 3D modeling now as well, that stems from that same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I got my first Lego kit when I was 4. And I can tell you exactly which one it was, the first lunar module that they built. I forget the exact model kit and stuff, but anyways, that was my love too. I remember very much at a young age wanting to be an astronaut because I wanted to push the buttons. That's what I liked, right? And I still like that. I go look at
That
airplanes.
sounds perfect.
Right? I look at airplanes. First thing I look at is the dash. It's just something I like to do. So it kind of tied in with that. But Lego has always been a lifelong thing for me. I was doing all kinds of Lego. I was still building Lego when I was 15 until I gave all my Lego to my uncle for his kids. And then a number of years after that, he called me up and says, "Do you want it all back?" They were done with it. And I said, yes. So I've got all my original Lego back. I mean, of course, you miss parts and stuff. But so my love of Lego is still continuing to this day. I have no room in the house for any more stuff, though. So.
And I'm
buy a bigger house, right?
Yeah, and I am particular about what I collect. So I don't buy just any kits. It has to have a certain appeal to me, namely the Technic stuff. I've always loved the Technic stuff. That's the stuff with the pins and the gears and the stuff. And then the other kind is that I like to collect is the modular stuff, because to me we don't have artwork in the house per se. A lot of people like to have paintings and stuff. That's not our thing, but we do like the modular kits, because they're really, if you've seen one in person, you've put it together, they're beautiful works of art. So for us, that's our art collection.
One of the first times I learned about your ingenuity was when you built a way to open the gate to the side of your house by having this system, and you basically 3D printed some stuff and use a string and you're able to kind of jerry rig that thing. As a man who's very crafty, what would you say is the most important tool you own, and then the most important tool any man should own?
Man or woman?
Yeah, exactly.
Man or woman? Yeah, any person.
I'm a big fan of tools. I own a lot of tools. I get that from my dad. So my ultimate dream eventually, when I get out of this rat race, is to have some kind of workshop. I have a workshop in the back, but it's not adequate for me to have the kind of tools.
Dungeon, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's not adequate enough for me to have the kind of tools that I want. If I'm not doing Tesla-related stuff, when the weather is nice, the thing I like to do is carpentry. I love carpentry. So for me, ultimately, I'd like to have a shop with, the proper tools that I could do that kind of work. I've built lots of sheds and fences and pergolas and you name it, I've built it. I got a beautiful table thing that I built for my barbecue. So that's kind of my love. So I really like tools. So I think that's and the thing about tools is, if you buy good tools, they'll last you a lifetime. So I'm not afraid to buy stuff that, even though I may not need it right now, there will come a time that you will need it. What was the other question?
Well, ideally, it was just what tool you find is most important to you that you love to have, and then what a person should own.
Okay, so the most important tool in my life, obviously, to earn a living is this computer that I'm working on. So that's
okay.
I mean, without
you're
that, I'm not earning
you're
a living,
taking a
right?
different route, but that's fine. That's totally cool. It counts.
Yeah.
It counts. So it's fair to say, I'm sure some listeners who are paying attention could say that you, Trevor, could build the plane, and Ian could very well fly it.
Well, we both could fly it. The difference is Trev could build it. I mean,
Yeah, well,
I can build
my
parts of it. He just has a much wider range.
Yeah,
hands-on.
I'd have to go back some recurrency because my license has lapsed. But that's 3D printed, by the way, behind you if you're watching the video.
So nowadays, you obviously run a forum. You obviously have this very popular YouTube channel, and you have a lot of different outlets for spreading news to the community. So this question really goes to the both of you. What do you find has been most conducive to your livelihoods as a result of being a part of this environment, this Tesla atmosphere that we find ourselves in? Because, being a forum moderator is one thing, sort of having the enthusiasts all coming to light and asking questions of each other. But then it goes well beyond that. We're seeing the ramifications of that culture that Tesla's created. So how integral has it been to your lives to be a part of that?
Ian, you go first.
It's a really interesting question. I'd have
You're
to
welcome.
give that well, we had no doubt. Why do you think we put you in charge of the question?
Hey, man. All I know is I'm just the one posing the questions here. So
Yeah.
I get to drink my wine.
And you're not getting out of the whole backstory of the life thing and how you wound up coming in here, because you have by far the most varied and interesting.
Mine is so
career
weird.
path.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to get to that one in a minute. You're
All
not
right.
getting out of that one. But how does it relate to my daily life and career? Well, it turned out much bigger than I expected. I mean, a funny story that we tell at the beginning of the testing video for the EV1, which is 100% true, is when I started to get into the Tesla and the EV community back in late 2015, early 2016. that was purely a personal passion thing. It's like, oh my God, somebody's finally built an EV that's for me. Like literally they designed the Model 3 all-wheel drive performance car is exactly the car that I would want if I could have the perfect electric car. So like there's no more excuse. I jumped into it hands, feet. But I figured it would just be, the usual, like I'd done on, motorcycle forums, my motorcycles and everything else. It's like, yeah, there's a community around it. People are super cool. One of the nicest. I didn't really picture it would go much beyond that. Boy, was I wrong. Because I'd literally just come back from the camp out to reserve the car. And one of our product managers, Ryan, who you see in the video, came into my office, is like, dude, that thing was crazy, man. It's like you guys had Woodstock at the Tesla store in Montreal. There's like, what, 400 of you down there? He says, this EV thing is going to be much, much bigger. Like he saw it already and he was completely out of the picture. But he, like so many other people, looked at that one event and said, oh my God, there's the changes are coming. Mm-hmm. So he said, should we develop wheels for EVs? And I was like, well, what would they look like? I mean, in my mind, wheels for EVs were what you saw like on hybrid Civics and stuff. They were like basically dinner plates. I'm like, no. Put my eyes out with hot pokers if I have to look at those. Like it's not happening. Forget it. No, they're all geeky and horrible. No, we can't do EV wheels. I had no imagination whatsoever. You know when you're in the middle of the storm and you can't quite see outside the cloud? Yeah. Right. Ryan was seeing it. He's like, no, dude, we can do something cool. I'm sure we, between us, we can come up with something. So that's how my professional life and the whole Tesla online thing kind of converged. Of course, we built the EV1 out of it, and the rest is history. My God, has that been a rocket ride? But it's an interesting conversation starter. Like because we have so many OEM clients, at work with like Mazda and Mitsubishi and Hyundai and Nissan, all these other companies that we build wheels for. When I go to these big meetings with their engineers and all the development groups, they're like, yeah, you're that Tesla guy, aren't you? They kind of look at me a little sideways. Yeah, exactly. They're not always loved, but they've always been so enthusiastic to hear what my impression was. I remember just before the Model Y reveal event, I was actually out taking a training course with Society of Automotive Engineers in California a couple of days prior. And, you had some of the top chassis engineers in all North America from Ford, GM. One guy worked for Harley, like fascinating people, and 40 other people who were either professional test drivers or engineers themselves. And at that time, I was the only person in a room who owned a Tesla. And like the questions I got bombarded with, especially because autopilot was really coming onto the scene at that point. It was in 2018, I think, 2019, early 2019. Yeah. So like, everywhere you go, personally and professionally, this whole little Tesla EV world follows me around. It's been pretty mind-altering.
And you almost just become known for that. Like your identity changes from all the various things you've mentioned earlier. Like your history spreads far and wide for journalism to everything about cars and everything else. And they just go, oh, there's the Tesla guy. Like you become sort of funneled into this one little thing, but it spreads far beyond that. And I think the background you have sort of brings so much to the table. So people, when they're asking these questions, you're taking it well beyond the EV conversation. You're taking it into sustainability efforts, into the battery technology, into IT technology, just all sorts of stuff. You're just forefront. And I think it's very impressive. So, Trevor, same questions for you. Is, how much has this all changed your life?
A lot, actually. So I've been working for myself since, 94, 95, something like that, doing the IT thing for a long time. And over the last few years, I just felt like completely burnt out. It's a very thankless job. I never get phone calls, hey, how you doing? It's always, get your ass down here because it's broken, right? That gets old pretty quick. And like I said, I've been in it for a long time, and, circumstances change. IT changes a lot. And like I said, because the Tesla thing came about at the right time, especially with the Model 3, because I just had it in my mind. I had this gut feeling. I knew the Model 3 was going to be a big deal. And of course, being in the IT thing and had been building websites since like 94 and stuff, I said, and the other thing too is that I think over the last 25 years or something like that, every car that I've owned, I've always joined some kind of forum. because it's a great way to exchange information with other like-minded people. You have problems and stuff. Because I'm not the kind of guy. I'm the kind of person that likes to teach myself. I don't like to call other people and ask things. I like to learn with myself and stuff. So I would never call a manufacturer and stuff, but I would get hints from other people. So, anyways, the forum communities have always been good. So I felt like I wanted to be part of this Tesla community. What can I bring to the table? Well, because I'm in the IT business, I've done websites and I've been on forums. I just put all three together and it says, I'll build a friendly, nice forum and let's see where it goes. So anyways, I registered a domain name. I set it all up back in October of 2015. So this is before the Model 3 launched. And then as soon as the Model 3 launched on March 30th, 31st, or whatever it was, I forget the exact day. I had also had a YouTube channel, which was just, a little bit of personal stuff on there. So I decided to do a video and release it the very day after the release, talking about some of the details that I had seen of that 3D model that was spinning behind Elon. And that video went absolutely viral. And I remember watching the numbers and I thought, there's something to this YouTube thing. Maybe I can tie it in with the forum to get the word around about the forum. And at the same time, I had also started a Twitter account. So what I did is I actually took all three things, so the YouTube, the forum, and the Twitter, and put all three together and made this brand, Model 3 Owners Club. That was basically where it came from. And co-marketed everything and really got things going. Now, in the early days with the forum, it was a lot of work because when you're first starting out, you don't have any members. There's no content. So I put a lot of work into that, get content. And then slowly over time, as people discovered it, through the videos and through the promotions and stuff, that it grew into this big community. Now, it's been, 5 years? It's a totally self-sustaining community to the point now where I consider myself semi-retired. So I don't do much of the IT stuff anymore. It's basically the forum, and it pays me an income. So that was really good because I had been looking for something to transition out of this IT thing, but I didn't know where I was going to go, what was going to happen. So the timing of everything worked out really well in my favor. So I'm very thankful for the Tesla community and everybody who's supported me over the years. The YouTube thing has really helped out too. That's been a long slog as well. I'm not a prolific YouTuber. I only do videos when I feel I have something important to say. There's other people out there that put out a video like every week and they get a huge following and stuff, but I'm not that kind of person. It's just like, okay, I got something important to say today, and then I'll go and do a video. Not a lot of them are planned like months in advance or anything like that. So it's been a long slog. The thing about YouTube is that sometimes you get recognized, other times you don't. I remember getting recognized in the early days. I think I was walking downtown Toronto or something like that. This was on 2017. Somebody approached me and said, "Hey, you're that guy at a YouTube channel." I thought, oh, okay, that was a little weird. After a while, you kind of get used to it. But the thing that gets me, though, is that when I go to gatherings, especially in the U.S., because let's face it, most of the viewers are in the U.S. as far as my YouTube. I look at the analytics; it's mostly in the U.S. When you go to these big Tesla events, because I'm a low-key guy. I just do my thing, do video once in a while. People know me on the forum, they know me on Twitter and stuff. But when you get into a crowd of people and you get recognized, like big time, I get this serious, what do you call it? Like
agoraphobia type thing?
No. It's that, oh gosh, and I'm trying to remember the term for it. There's that, what is this? I don't belong here. This is not for me type of thing.
Oh, imposter
That's
syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. I get that when I'm around a lot of people. It's like all these people coming up to me. I'm like, ooh, that's weird.
I'm just a nice Canadian.
Well, that's yeah. So I just do my thing, but yeah, the imposter syndrome thing really hits me hard when I'm around a lot of other people, and I get recognized a lot. That's. Oof.
I think part of it is because that's just what the Tesla culture is cultivated, right? We see these fans who are branching out and reaching out for whatever thing they can cling on to that is providing them the information, providing them, this is their drug, right? And you're dealing it out. You're just every day putting on content. And for those who don't know,
one way, there's not a lot.
Feedback. Especially when you're in a virtual environment, you're not really like out there all the time. So when your popularity grows to that extent, I remember when you would come down to Florida. I think it was the second Cars and Coffee event here in Florida. Unfortunately, this year
I got it big time then.
Right. I had, for those who don't know the backstory, I came into the channel through Trevor's videos, and he was coming down for cars and coffee, and I didn't treat him the way that some people do, which is like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was cool.
But I was like, well, it's cool that he's there, because I found you as a very credible, reliable resource of good content, and your videos were largely informative, not commercialized.
Yeah.
Right. You're presenting in a way where, and that's not for everyone. I know some people do like the flash bang pop sort of videos, but yours are straightforward and informative. And, when you guys got your hands on the early Model 3 in Canada and had a chance to, you and Ken did that video.
Actually, that was in Texas.
I'm sorry, it's in Texas. But you guys did that walk around, basically every inch of the car. I mean, you guys had your tape measures down, all that stuff. And that gave so much satiation for people who are like, this car needs to be real. And they realized then, like, it is getting ever so close. You can sort of like the palpitation was getting to people. So when I had a chance to meet you, I wasn't expecting glamour. I wasn't expecting someone who's sort of pretentious. I knew you were very down to earth. And you and Beverly were phenomenally kind and undeniably respectful to everyone who was there. And I just sort of hung around, and obviously worlds collided, and things fast forward years later, it's sort of all coming full circle. But it was very clear that there was a lot of positive connections amongst us, to the point where we ended up spending a good part of the weekend together.
Yeah, we did.
You guys were in Hollywood, but we dined together, we went out together, we got ice cream together.
It was awesome.
And then that sort of became an annual tradition after that. So I certainly miss that we're not doing it this year. But it is a thing when the guys come down to Florida that we certainly do our best to try to get together as often as we can when we can.
Yeah. So speaking of which, since you're talking about yourself now, let me think here. What can I ask Eric?
I don't want to let him off the hook. He's got to come back now and tell him his backstory.
Well, that's what I'm getting at here. Tell us about your background, like your education. I mean, you ran for office, apparently.
I did. I did that before. So for those who don't know, my last name is Camacho. And it is that by birth, because my parents are immigrants from Cuba. They came to the States in the 60s when they were, preteen, teenage years, and gone living most of their adolescent years in Florida. And they went to different high schools, got married, moved up to New England, popped out a couple of kids. I was the first of two. I have a younger brother. He's 4 years my junior. And I grew up there till I was about almost 13. And then we moved back to Florida in 1990. And I've been living here pretty much ever since. The only time I ever spent living outside of Florida was when I went to the Bay Area in California in 2015. I was in California for about 6-7 months, and then got homesick and came back. Loved California.
What made you go to California?
So we're going to jump around here quite a bit. So I moved out to California because I wanted to eventually get out of Florida. I knew I had a chance to get out there. And there were some things that would allow me to be a home caretaker for someone. Okay. And it was just because the company I was working for at the time would allow me to work remotely. So I'm like, well, if I can keep my job and do it, across the country and be able to live out in California. I had friends who lived there, still live there. I'd visited a number of times and just fell in love with it. And it was just something that the company it was really the early stages of my prior employer venturing into remote networking. There were a few employees that did it, but they were sort of hesitant to do a lot of employees to do that. But as it were, it just spread a lot after that. So now the company, of whom I shall not name just for privacy reasons, but now a lot of their employees, especially now with COVID, but even before that, a lot of employees can work from anywhere, because they can hire them from anywhere. So I lived there for a pretty time. But before that, I was, as a kid, I was the avid outdoorsman. I liked playing outside. I was never the kind of kid who nowadays wants to be tethered to his mobile devices and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I always had an interest in sports as a kid. I loved baseball growing up. That never panned out. I sucked at Little League. I was the kind of player who would just basically wait for someone to give me a base on balls because I was afraid to fail, which is that's going to be a precursor to a question later on. So when I came to Florida, I went to high school, and it was in my junior year of high school that I took a class in pre-law. And that really spurned my interest in the law. into politics and things like that. I was really kind of apolitical. I didn't really get into legal stuff, but that class like spawned it. And I will tell you, again, also a precursor for later, it was a teacher I had. Her name was Carol Rubel. She's such a sweetheart. Huge fan of Dan Marino, which is already one of the many connections we had. And in taking her class, I realized I had an affinity for the law and for politics. So I ended up deciding to major in legal studies in college at Nova Southeastern University. I graduated in 95, top of the class, that sort of thing. And very quickly into my academic year, I realized, for those who don't really know, have never been to college, whatever your major is, you don't do any of that shit for like the first 2.5 years. Like you're taking earth science, you're taking biology 101, you're taking like English lit, like stuff that has nothing to do with your degree. And I'm like, didn't I just go to school for this? Like I have my diploma, like what's going on? So anyway, I was in my 3rd year of undergrad. I did 2 internships with 2 attorneys and said, the hell with this. My sort of like with Ian saying like, it just kind of like veered into one direction. It was not a girl. It was just lawyers that did it. So
they're quite effective at that as well.
But the ironic thing was for most of my time at Nova, I was already working in the IT department, like help desk stuff. And I already had, when I grew up with a Texas Instrument computer on a black and white monitor. Like I always had like Atari game controllers and computers and stuff in my household. So I was exposed to IT at a very young age. And I'd been using it all these years. Now here I am working for a university, making some earnest money in IT. And I'm like, why am I not doing this for a major? So after quitting legal studies, I switched my degree to computer science and getting a bachelor's of science degree. So it's a BSIT, which I call a bullshit degree, in more ways than one. Yeah, take that to the bank. And then after that, really, it's been I have more lines on my resume than you've had lines of cocaine in Miami in the 80s. There's just so many jobs I've had over the years.
That's
right
the one
now,
thing I do remember from talking to you in the early days when you were rattling off all the jobs you've had. I'm like, this guy's either bored very quickly or he can't keep a job.
You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. I think this is something that one of our questioners had asked, but I'll answer it now.
It plays right in. Yeah, Ben. I'm
a quick learner, and sort of like with Trevor, once I've mastered a thing, if there is nothing more to learn, if there's nothing more to do, if the advancement opportunities are far in between, I found that most of the jobs I've had are what I call T-square jobs. There's a ton of entry-level positions, but very, very little upward mobility. So you find that you have a lot of call center, tech support, customer service, restaurant host. Like you have all these different jobs where you're like, hi, you can get your foot in the door. But you're like, but I want to aspire to the next level. And you know, there's always less and less as you go higher up the ladder. But the position's never opened up. It's like it either takes death, retirement, or someone to get terminated for doing something really bad for these jobs to open. And when they do, it's hard to really get noticed in that way. So oftentimes when I feel like I'm stuck here, or the job's not worth it, or the commute's too, whatever the reasons may have been, eventually I would just quit and move on to something else. Usually it might be in the same profession, just a different position with a different company. Sometimes it's a whole new job. I've been an educator. I've been a firefighter. I ran for political office as a city commissioner. I've done a lot of work in hospitality industry, so restaurants, hotels, stuff like that. I've done a lot of volunteer work. I've done a lot of IT work.
Travel agency?
I did IT work for them. That was most of my work for them. So I've done IT work for different kinds of industries, but largely all in IT. So I've done a lot. And for those who don't know, I look very young. I'm only 43 if you're new to the show. So I started working when I was 14. My first job was making $4 an hour at a movie theater as a concessionist. Now, let me tell you something. If you've never worked as a concessionist at a movie theater, the next time you go to the movies, whenever that ends up being a thing where you decide to leave your house, turn off HBO Max, and go to see a movie, be nice to concessionists. You always leave smelling like buttered popcorn. It doesn't matter what you do. You could be there for 5 minutes. You smell like buttered popcorn. And it's the most disgusting job. And the only benefit they had was when I had like a 15-minute break, I can go into one of the movies and watch them. So I tried to see the same movie at different times so I can kind of catch the whole movie.
15 minutes at a time.
Put it this way, I got paid less money than it did to buy a movie ticket.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was, and I had free pink lemonade. That was also a nice little perk. But I worked for Disney. I've done a lot of things, and I, man, I don't know even now. Like you guys, I know are sort of inching towards retirement in some regards. Oh. I honestly do not know now at 43 what the next 20 plus years will hold. I know that just briefly speaking, that the economy sort of really puts a kink on retirement plans when you're in your 40s, because you're really like my dad is in his 70s and he still has to work, and I sort of feel like I'm down that path the same. And I'm only now, for the first time in my entire life, ever getting paid more than $50,000 a year. But for years, I was working like $30,000 jobs, $40,000 jobs, and sort of like just waves back and forth into all that. So it's yeah, it's been quite an adventure in the span of 30 years.
Ian, first job, what'd you do?
My first real job, like not counting summer jobs, but my first real job was working at Auto Drugstore as a sales guy at the counter. Yeah, that was the first real one. Yeah,
I was a dishwasher. That was my very first job at the Golf and Country Club.
God, we have so many parallels. That's the first summer job I had, was washing dishes at the barn.
I'll tell you, it was the worst job I ever had, because if you ever work in a kitchen, the worst part of the job, other than walking in after the day is done and seeing the mountains of pots and pans like stacked to the ceiling, and you're like, I'm never getting through this, because I was the only dishwasher, was switching the dish rags. They would have these dish rags, and they would stuff them into this big gurney bag, and they would sit for about a week. And my job was to move them from one bag to another. Well, you know what it's like, and if you leave something wet and soggy at the bottom of a gin bag,
the smell is so bad.
It still makes me retch today. That was the worst part of the job. So, anyways, I think I lasted about 3 weeks, and then I ended up getting a job at Sears in the shoe department, shoe and luggage. So shoes on one side, across the aisle was luggage. That was a good job. I had that one for a year and a half, I guess, something like that.
Here's a lovely rolling Samsonite to go with your new loafers.
I mean, it was a good job. I mean, you know, you get your lulls where things are really quiet, and then of course the holidays come around, and oh my God, you're running up and down trying to shoes, and I don't want this and that and the other thing. Yeah, that was an interesting job. I haven't had a lot of jobs, to be honest with you. I've had, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 real jobs working for companies. The rest of the time I've been working for myself.
Wow.
I spent a number of years in the music business.
Yeah, that's right.
Working a music store for better part of 8 years, I guess it was.
Nice.
That was interesting.
Matter of fact, I feel like when your resume's got staples, you know you've had a long, you've had a ride.
I don't mean to hijack it, but I might as well talk about education a little bit. I didn't go to post-secondary. I finished, grade 13 back in the day. We'd go up to grade 13 here. I wanted to get into the music business. And because, again, buttons, right? Technology. Computer.
By the way, if you're listening to this on the podcast, the face he just made, please just find it on YouTube. Just be like, hee.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. It's technology, and I was very much into computers, and this was at the start of the MIDI revolution. Being able to connect synthesizers and drum machines and stuff to computers and to each other to make electronic music. That was the big thing. So it fit right in, and I wanted to get into that business. So I started working at the local music store, just as a, runaround private music store, small one, and sold musical instruments and handled the rentals and all this other stuff. And I wanted to, at the same time, I was trying to think about, I'm 18 years old, 17, 18, trying to think about what I was going to do with my life. And I decided that maybe I should go and get some kind of degree in the music industry. So I decided I was going to go and get a degree in recording engineering, right? Working in the studio. I applied to a local college and did not get accepted. So that was a bit of a bummer. But I was lucky enough to find that were two other private businesses, that could get college type degrees that would teach recording engineering. So one of them was, one was larger than the other. Anyways, so I applied. I got into that, paid my own money. That was about a 1.5 year program. Came out with flying colors. Now, my boss at the time used to work in the music industry as a recording engineer back in the 70s. Okay, worked at big Toronto, Bachman Turner Overdrive, all, the big names, working as a sound engineer. And of course, when he got into the music business, started his business, he built himself a little studio down in the basement. But he was so busy running the business that he wasn't running the studio. And I wanted to get into the studio and do stuff. So he said, well, you go get your degree, and then when you come back, you can run the studio. Well, it never happened. So I was heartbroken over the matter. And he was a tough boss. He was verbally and sometimes physically abusive to me. And that was really, really hard to deal with. Here you are, oh my gosh, when did I quit? I was 23, 24 when I quit, something like that. I'd met my soon-to-be wife, my ex-wife now, at the time. And I remember she came into the store and she looked at me and looked at my boss. And after work, she told me, what are you doing working there? He just gives me the creeps and he's not nice to you. And you're so good with computers. Why don't you go do something else? And at the time, I had bought my first Mac. It cost me a lot of money. This is $1990. But I had bought it from the local computer reseller that was about half an hour away. And I'd befriended those people. And then when my ex-wife had told me at that time that I should quit and try something in computers, because I had come back from a particularly bad day at work that one time, I said, F it, I'm going to quit. So I quit. And I went to the computer store and I said, can I have a job? And they said, what are your qualifications? I said, well, I've been doing this, this, and this. I bought my computer from you guys. And they said, when can you start? So I started working in retail sales at the computer store, and I did really well in retail sales. I've been doing retail since the Sears days and stuff, so I did really, really well. And after about 2 years of doing that, it was a small computer store, but they had not only retail sales, but they also had service, and they also had corporate sales. And corporate, I wanted to be a service technician. I enjoyed the retail stuff, but I also wanted to fix the computers too. So at one point, I think it was the boss that was running the corporate division came down and took me aside. He says, you have a choice. We want to promote you, but you have a choice. You can go and work in service, or you can come and work in corporate sales. And I was heartbroken because I wanted to work in the service department so bad, but I couldn't stand the woman who was running it. So for me, it was like, okay, I guess I'm going to corporate sales, because I thought, okay, well, I'm going to get some juicy accounts, right? Because they had some pretty big accounts. Unfortunately, because I came in and I was a low guy in the totem pole, I got none of that stuff. So I had to hustle. But one of the things that I discovered hustling and going around to all these smaller companies was the common refrain of, we like your company. We have service problems with our computers, in the sense when we have a problem with it, you guys always want us to bring the computers to you guys, but none of you want to come to us. And I kept hearing that over and over and over again. And then the light bulb just went on one day. I said, see a need, fill a need. I can do the computer service, which is what I want to do, and I can start a business. So right then, my business was born, of going out and seeing these clients that I already knew and doing the service work. I had to be very careful, of course, not to step on anybody's toes. But it was not the kind of service that they were looking for. Like they were kind of inferring the fact that we want technical support, not fix the computers, right? So I thought, okay, that'll be okay, right? So I was doing like writing little programs or automation, or just doing, fixing little problems and stuff like that, but not the hardware stuff necessarily, right?
Did you turn it off and turn it back on again?
Yes. There's a lot of that stuff involved in the IT business, if you know anything about that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Shall I go on? Because there's more to the story that I've never revealed.
You want to? It's your show.
Oh, okay. All right. How are we doing here for time? I guess we got a little bit of time. Anyways. So let me see here. Yeah. This is around about 95. Yeah. So I met my first wife, 93. We were married in 95. And, of course, you're young. You're 25, 26 years old. Got no money. You live in an apartment. You got a crap car.
You got it made.
Well, early days. Pretty tough, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, all secondhand furniture. Like, no concept of, like, are you ever going to own a house? You're going to retire? None of this stuff, right? You're just getting by the skin of your teeth. And then, so I'm going to tell this story that I've never revealed to anyone because it involves finances, and the finances are one of those taboo subjects. I just don't like talking about that stuff because it's really nobody's business. But I figured this is actually a good and a happy story, so I figured it's probably time that I tell people. So, roundabout, I think it was 96. Well, my wife and I were married for about a year and a half, and this happened on a Saturday. Saturdays were typically the day where it was nice. I would get in my car and just go for a drive, right? Clear your head. That's what I do. My wife decided to take her sister and go to the mall. So they're at the mall, and they walk up to the Wicket information booth. They were selling lottery tickets. So she bought a scratch and win type of thing. And she took it home, didn't scratch it. Came home and sat down on the couch and scratched the ticket, and her sister was there, and she was asking her sister, she says, what happens when you get 3 triangles or whatever the hell it was? Right? And her sister looked at it, and they had to do double take, and they were like starting to flip out. So they decided, and of course they're trying to get a hold of me. This is early days. We didn't have cell phones at the time. Couldn't get a hold of me, so she decides to go back to the mall with her sister to ask the Wicket, is this actually a winning ticket? Now, for those of you who don't know, our lottery machines have a thing where they can put it in, they can tell you whether you win or not. So, sure enough, she shakily hands the ticket over to the lady, and she puts it through the machine, and it does its little song and dance, and it comes out, and she says to my ex-wife, congratulations, you won. So now she's trying to, she's flipping out at this point. So she's trying to find me. Meanwhile, I've already come home at this point, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm just working on my laptop. I hadn't heard from my wife all day. She comes home with her sister, and she's got bags. Like, she went shopping. Right? Of course, I just told you, we don't have any money, right? She's shopping and stuff. And she came home. I looked around at her. I said, what the hell are you doing going shopping? She says, we don't have to worry about money anymore. I said, what are you talking about? So she reaches over the couch. So our couch was like right by the door and stuff, so you could just kind of reach over. So she reaches over the couch in front of my computer and gives me the slip of paper that looks exactly, it's printed on the same paper as a 649 ticket. 649 is the lottery system that we have
like
here.
our Powerball for our American
Yeah,
friends.
exactly. Okay. And she hands me this ticket, and she says to me, we don't have to worry about money anymore. And now I look at this ticket, and I'm thinking, I didn't hear what she said. She says, oh, you bought a 649 ticket, right? She goes, no, count the numbers. My sister-in-law, meanwhile, I noticed she had come around, and she's standing in front of me. She's got one of those little cinematic camera picture. She goes, snap. She takes a picture. I'm going, like, I'm really confused at this point. She says, count the numbers. So I'm counting the numbers, and I see one. At first glance, I'm like, 10,000. And I went, snap a picture. She goes, count the numbers. I look at it again. I see 100,000. Click, another picture. My face is like this. She goes, are you counting the numbers? I look at it again. 1 million. Click,
What?
another picture. Yeah, we had won 1 million on an instant scratch ticket.
Oh my God.
So keep in mind, this is a
Mind you, I've been on 2 game shows and won like money from a Chips Ahoy cookie contest. What the F, man?
Yeah, that's our secret.
This is in the 90s, man. That's big money in the 90s.
Well, you know,
That's how you got
keep
those
in mind,
Legos.
you're keep in mind, you're 26 years old. You don't have a house. You have no cars. You have no nothing. Honestly, $1 million sets you up, but it's not good enough for retirement. So remember, this is a Saturday. We can't claim the ticket until Monday. Longest freaking weekend of my life.
Broke on Wednesday.
So anyways, Monday rolls around. We decide, like, we're not going into work. We got to go to Toronto to claim this ticket, right? Because in order to claim these tickets, you got to go to the head office. So anyways, I call my office and I said, guys, I'm not coming in today. I'm not sick. I'll explain later. You'll understand. My ex-wife does the same thing too. We go to the Toronto office where they do this stuff. Now it walks in and it looks just like a bank, right? They got tellers. And, you know, people are lined up and you give them the ticket. And she looks at the ticket and she goes, oh, you got to go around back. I'm like, oh, okay. So you go around back and they've got
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, none of this, right? So anyways, we go around back. They've got these booths set up where they do the interviews because part of the deal, of course, as you know, when you win this kind of money, is that they have to get your signature and your authorization to do, you know, publicity and stuff. So anyways,
media.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm walking, you know, I'm nervous. I don't know what's going on. I see these different booths and there's people and stuff. And, you know, I'm walking by. I'm like, hey, you won? Oh, yeah. How much you win? And I said, you know, what'd you guys win, right? Oh, we won $10,000. So I'm like, ooh. I walk over to the next guy. How much you guys? Oh, we won like 20,000. I'm like, oh, boy. So make a long story short, they give you the big written check. You take a picture, but they give you a real check. And let me tell you, that was also the first time. They were also having a reunion that very same day because there was an anniversary or something like that going on of all the people at the Queen Suite at the Royal York, where all the people had won these scratch tickets. So they had a little hoopla. So they said, well, we want you to come down there. We're going to introduce you. There's going to be some media and stuff. We'll introduce you as the latest winners and stuff. So anyways, we went down there, did the little shindig, did some phone interviews. Of course, it's like 4 o'clock, and of course, my wife and I, keep in mind, we're brand new. We didn't have any money and stuff. Matter of fact, we had a $20,000 loan from the credit union because the banks wanted nothing to do with us. So we called the credit union and said, we want to pay out. We're coming down, like, right now, stay open. So anyways, we managed to get in. I think it was about 5 minutes after they closed, but they promised they would stay open for us. And we handed them the check, and they look at, whoa, this is the most money we've ever seen. So anyways, I was a millionaire for a few hours until we paid off, but it was certainly nice to have that little checkbook at the time and seeing all the numbers and stuff. So anyways, we used the money to buy ourselves. Our first home was completely paid for. I was willing to take out a mortgage, but our financial advisor had told us, no, the house is your best place to put your money. So just buy it outright. And then trust me, it'll work out. Yeah, that was a good choice that ways. She needed a new car more than I did. I refused to get a new car, although I kind of I gave in after a few months. We gave some money away to our family and invested the rest and lived off that for, I mean, I'm still working and stuff, but it set me up to help my business. And eventually when I got divorced, we sold the house. So I had proceeds from that. I still had some investments and stuff. But still can't retire. It's just one of those things, right? You get $1 million, you spend a bunch of it and stuff, and then you get divorced, you got to give up 50%. You know how it goes. So anyways, that's my story.
Oh,
Never
yeah,
told it
all the
before.
time. It happens to everybody here. I mean, shit, I've done it like 6, 7 times already.
That's my story. Yeah. Anyways, but now it's like, okay, that was so long ago. God, that was over 25 years ago. Time flies.
Yeah.
But to win $1 million today, I'll tell you, I mean, at my age now, okay, yeah, all right, I'm good to retire. But back in the day, God, no, you can't do that. I mean, if you don't live in a cheap country, maybe that's a different story.
I will tell you, I did not win $1 million on Wheel of Fortune.
Eric
So for those who don't know, I was on. Well, I'll be brief because then we get a lot of listener questions.
Yeah.
So I've been on 2 game shows. I've been on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in 2001. That's a colossal embarrassment.
Okay, here it comes. $200. Take a look. Which of the following is most likely to curtsy? A football player, an accountant, a ballerina, a mackerel.
Although I've seen it done in movies with a football player, I'm going to have to go with C, ballerina.
Yes, the ballerina is the one who curtsies. 200. Going for $300. A traveler waiting for a last-minute seat on an airplane is said to be flying how? Sit in, stand by, lay down, in cargo class.
That would be B, standby.
Yeah, that's it. Stand by, $300.
I did get to the hot seat. I was only 22, 23 at the time. It was in 2001, so I was 23. And I was, I think, the second youngest American contestant to make it into the hot seat at the time that the show had aired on TV. We taped on a Tuesday. It aired that Friday. So it was kind of weird. It was taped late March, aired in April, and I ended up only winning 1,000. So I will tell you, I was nervous as hell. I mean, I'm 23 years old. It's Regis Philbin. It's national TV. There's a live audience there. My mom was the person behind me in the audience in the seats. It was nerve-wracking. It was crazy. I hate every memory of it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So we're going to move on to Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune, I did 13 years later. So that happened in 2014. And I won $10,200 cash, and I came in third.
Nice.
That's how crazy that episode was. I won $10,200, came in third.
Is that on YouTube?
I will tell you. I don't know if it was. It was for a period of time, but then it got taken down for copyright infringement. But the theme of the show is the great outdoors. And the woman who was on my left, so I was in the red wedge. The woman to my left who was in, I think it's blue and yellow. I forget what the order is. I think it's yellow then blue. But ever, the woman to my left, I think her name was Carla, if memory serves. Anyway, she was a nervous wreck in rehearsals. Like just totally just everything was just glazed over the whole thing. And I've been on stage as an actor, performer, and that sort of thing. So you talk about music. I've been in music for pretty much since I was third grade. So I'm used to the lights and sounds and all the spectacle. And it's Vanna and Pat and everybody. But we're doing rehearsals, and we're watching puzzles on the board being figured out and stuff. And I'm looking at the different stuff. And if you're in your studio, when you're at the wheel weighs about 2,000 pounds. It's very heavy. So if you spin it, usually get close to where you were the first time. And then off to your player's left, so camera right, player's left, is a letterboard. So you see like this little blue screen with all the letters in white. And then as letters get called, they just vanish off the screen. So I'm watching the board, I'm looking at the letter thing, and I'm sort of looking at the puzzles, and I'm banging them out one by one. And they're all different themes, before and after, actor, whatever. So I'm sitting there, and Carla's just like, how are you doing this? So I gave her pointers, which is my damn fault, because that's why I came in third with $10,200, and she won everything. Now, mind you, she won one puzzle. In that one puzzle, she won a car, a vacation, and a ton of money. That ended up getting her set for the entire damn show, because my stupid idiot brain, first letter I get a chance, I go S, and there's no S. I'm like, damn it. So it's not like I call it X or something. And then so she ends up winning everything. She won the puzzle at the end. Husband, kids come out. I felt so happy for her. We all all the contestants unite together, and there's this really weird thing. For those who don't know, there's it's an unofficial club, the multi-game show club. So if you're a contestant who's been on more than one game show, you're part of this club. So I am an unofficial card-carrying member of the multi-game show club. So
you just need to be on Price is Right too.
But people have asked me, would I do another show? So if there's someone's like, Eric, you should do Jeopardy. Listen, people, look at me right now. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm not Jeopardy smart. Okay, I saw an episode where the first category in Double Jeopardy was Alaskan trees. This guy, let's just call him Joe. Joe took every damn one and got it. I don't know anything 5 times over to do that. He knew every freaking tree that was on there. I'm like, bro, I can't name 5 donuts, and you can name 5 Alaskan trees? Holy crap.
Oh, my God. Fun times.
It was good. It's a good experience to do it. I know that Tracy and I, my significant other, we've talked about going on game shows, whether it be The Weakest Link or The Wall on NBC or something like that, some competitive couples show. We're both zany that way. But man,
we should totally do a cruise together so that we can go on the shows. Like they always have the games on the cruises. Man, we would clean up there.
Yeah, right.
Well, we're going a little long here, so let's hop over to some questions. Let's jump in and answer some questions that our viewers and listeners have submitted, Eric. So what do we got here? What's up first?
All right, the first one comes from our friend Ben, who asked this question of all of us. How do we balance our personal life amidst all the work that we do with the podcast, the forum, social media? He knows that this isn't our day job doing all this stuff.
Nope.
So how do we basically manage the two between family and work?
Well, not a problem for me. My workload's fairly low at this point, so
I just show up here when I'm asked to.
Yeah, as far as the podcast stuff, it doesn't take that much work. I mean, we maintain a spreadsheet and stuff of information we want to talk about. We put it in there, and we have a little pre-show. We just kind of set it up as far as what we want to talk about. And sometimes we talk. I mean, we talk on a regular daily basis between the three of us. Yeah. How things are going, what do we want to do, and stuff. So it doesn't take that much, I don't think. Ian?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it seems pretty fluid, and it's stuff that we would normally chat about anyway, because we have one of our private Tesla chat groups, so we kind of know going in. Yeah, I find the whole podcast process for me is very organic, because we're all chatting all week, like you said, Trev, and once the questions are dialed in, we show up, and so it's one evening a week. It's kind of like my boys' night, and that's no problem. It's sacred time for me, so it's a pleasure to always do it.
It's always fun.
Yeah, no, we have a riot doing this show. I love it. I'm just so happy people will actually want to watch and listen to it. It gives us we'd probably do it just the same if you didn't. Exactly. But yeah, the other aspect of it, I think for a lot of people, balancing social media versus your job and your family is a real big challenge. And I was lucky in that I was very late to the social media game. I had no account of any type until 2015 when I got onto Twitter, so that for the sole purpose of following SpaceX, so I could catch a launch when I was down in Florida at the time. And of course, that's famously what led me to follow much more in depth the exploits of one Mr. Elon Musk. And it's around the same time that I discovered they're going to make a smaller car. Hey, ooh. So that's actually what led me into the Tesla world was joining Twitter, strangely enough. And since then, I think like a lot of people, I really got sucked into it early on. Like I'd always get the look from Ms. Mads. It's like, are you on Twitter again? I remember the first time we went on a trip when I had a Twitter account, it was like I was photographing and posting everything. She's like, really? Like, does everything now have to be public? I was like, put the phone down. Right. Yeah, exactly. So I got very conscious of that early on, and I backed off. And now it's just something I do, a few minutes here, a few minutes there for fun. But what I really enjoy the interaction, though. I mean, I think it's great that we have such a lively audience and they want to ask questions, and we have discussions in the community. So it's just a little thing that I keep in moderation. I don't find it takes a huge amount of my time every day, and I'm cognizant of the fact that it really shouldn't be. And I think it's easy because that's the only platform I'm on. I mean, I had Facebook for a little while. I flushed that this year because anyway, that's a long discussion. I don't want to. But I have no use for them whatsoever. Yeah. But yeah, it hasn't been that bad. And of course, I've always spent times on forums. God, since forums existed. I mean, that's the only reason I was ever able to own 20 years worth of
Usenet.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime I wanted to fix anything, thank God for owners forums. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
So, in a small way, I feel my time now in the Tesla community and on Twitter and helping people with these stuff is me paying back, all of the help that people who came before me, with their videos and their explanations and stuff on cars and motorcycles I owned. To me, it's like just this sharing thing that's so essential and rewarding at the same time. So it's not a huge imposition for me, but I mean, Trevor's got the most skin in the game because you're the one that's running the show and you got to do all the recordings and the editing and everything. Eric's even a little more involved than I am because you've got your eye more on the news and you do a great job of posting the news articles and stuff. I almost just kind of show up as the color commentator guy here.
We appreciate your input. All right, I'll read the next one because Ben has a question for Eric. He says, you've often spoken about spoken as formally teaching. I'm completing my 10th year as an elementary teacher. I've often contemplated leaving the classroom to try something different, but always struggled with what else is out there. What led you to stepping out of the classroom, and has it been a struggle working in other fields?
Oh, the last part's yes. It's been a struggle really every field I've ever been into. I have this weird thing, and I don't know if it's me, my perception of the different fields I'm in, or what it might be. But I often feel like that there is definitely either a cultural fit, either I'm too smart for it, or there's something about it that I find all-encompassing that I want to be tied to. My major thing is I've always believed that there is a core difference in work as far as a job's concerned, and then your career. I've never found a career because for example, I love music. I love performing. I love doing improvisational comedy. I love singing, acting, the whole thing. If I could make a living being a stage performer, oh my God, that's a career.
Yeah, I could totally see you doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. As a journalist, no. But now, but all I've ever done was just held a job. I've earned a paycheck. That's all I've really ever done. So to answer Ben's question, I left the profession twice. The first time was in 2008. I just worked for a middle school in the Space Coast, as it were, in near Cape Canaveral. I was working for a middle school, and it just went south very quickly. Long story short, the principal and I never saw eye to eye. There were a lot of demands that were above and beyond what the state of Florida required educators to provide, as far as documentation, lesson plans, that sort of thing. And I was the kind of person that, like, all the demands were unreasonable and really violated union restrictions. So I ended up just leaving because I had a chance to get into the fire academy. And those don't come across very often, especially here in Florida. And it was right after I graduated the academy from Cocoa Beach, Florida, that the housing bubble went, and then every job vanished. Ugh. So here I am now, fresh out of the academy with, I was a nationally certified EMT. I was a state certified firefighter, and the jobs were so limited that when an opening opened up anywhere, hundreds, if not thousands of candidates from across the country would flood into that market. So I could never get in, especially because I was also older when I was applying. So a lot of times departments want to hire younger because you can work for a long time. You get less seniority. So it's better. I just couldn't get a job. So I ended up getting back into retail jobs and other stuff. And then my second venture into education was working for a private school. And let me tell you something. I'm not speaking for all private schools, just my experience in private school. I was a high school teacher, and I was the third math teacher for this one group of students. The initial teacher got pregnant, so she had to leave on leave. They hired another person to replace her. She quit 2 weeks in, and then I was hired after that. I was certified, and I had the job, and I was very quick to see that this was kind of really, really bad. So what ended my employment there was there were two students in a class. I'll be quick. Two students in the class were cheating. The school does not condone cheating. In fact, you can get expelled for cheating in the school. I caught them. I spoke with them individually and let them know, if you do it again, I will report you. So one of the students goes and tells his mom, I'm being kicked out of school. Which is not what I said.
No.
She, being an irate mom, calls the program director that this kid sort of fell under. And then I got pulled out of class, I think a couple days later. In the middle of teaching, I get pulled out of class. And then the headmaster of the high school, and then this program director sit me down. Long story short, they play the phone call of the like hysterical mom, and basically like, what do you have to say? And I'm like, are we just gonna totally skip over the fact this kid cheated and I caught him and didn't report it? You're mad at me, but he cheated. I said, don't do it, or you'll get kicked out or I'm gonna report it, which means you could get kicked out. He hears I'm getting kicked out of school. And I'm the one in trouble?
Yeah.
So it was about a week later. I was like, F this, F everything. And I quit. I gave him my rights to nature. And it was one of the things, it was in that meeting, they said, we have to be accountable to our shareholders. And I'm like, you lose me at shareholders. Like, screw you. This is a school. I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I'm not some investor. I don't give a crap what the parents are paying. But it was just a school of entitled people from top to bottom, the investors, the shareholders, the parent, everyone. And again, just that school, not speaking for all of them. Yeah. But it soured the taste so much so that teachers now who are in the profession still, bless you. It used to be, the reason I got into teaching is because I revered teachers. I thought they were among the elites in our society when it came to professions, and they are treated like shit today. They're not paid enough. They're not given enough benefits. They're looked down upon. And this pandemic really has opened up people's eyes to just how invaluable teachers ought to be. And damn it, if there's anyone who deserves more accolade and more recognition and more pay and more benefits and more everything, it's teachers. You want to keep them in the profession? Take care of them. That's why they're quitting. That's why the average undergrad who goes to elementary ed for college degree leaves the profession here in the U.S. within 3 years. 3 years. Yeah. So you're losing teachers all the time because they're like, the hell with this.
Yeah.
Do something else. And they don't care what they'll do. But most teachers I know work 2 jobs at least. At least 2. How do you make a living with 2 jobs all the time? And your teaching job takes like 50, 60 hours a week. Please. Next question.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Next question.
Question for Trevor from Matt says, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, my God. That sounded so terrible.
Did it?
Did you eat a hot dog before you said that question?
No.
What's your favorite movie?
I don't know.
What's your favorite movie?
What's your favorite movie, Trevor?
Yeah, what is your favorite movie?
I don't have a single favorite movie. I'll tell you my top 3 in no particular order, okay? Shawshank Redemption,
That's a good one.
the first Alien film,
Okay.
and Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, my God. Apollo 13 for me.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Mine, hands down, has been for, almost 30 years, is The Right Stuff.
Oh, that's another good one. Oh,
He's got a big
man.
poster in his bed in his basement.
It's
Yes.
that's an original print.
I know
from
it is.
Nice.
The wife number
it's a good
1
one.
got. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
When I was younger, I didn't realize how long that was. I'm like, this is like Titanic before Titanic.
Yeah. Epic film. They're each of us gets a separate question. These are
Yeah,
from-
Ian,
I'll
what is your favorite non-Tesla dream car or favorite car that you've ever owned?
God Almighty, that's a horrible question to ask. Car nerd. There's no short answer.
No. It's a great question. You just can't come up with an answer, but it's a great
Yeah.
question.
No, I gave it some thought. I'll make it as quick as possible. I mean, today there are no cars other than Tesla that I really think about. As astonishing as that sounds, at any price point. I mean, if you said, okay, you can have any car in the world you want, I'd get a Roadster. That's it. End of story. But I understand where Matt's going with this. Let's take that out of the equation. When I was a little kid, it would be going back through my history of dream cars. So when I was a little kid, I had this beautiful little yellow Lamborghini Miura, a Corgi, back when they were like jewel-like quality. And for a long time, when I first saw the Italian Job, the original version with Michael Caine,
Yeah.
and there's that one in the beginning of the film, and it gets destroyed 5 minutes into it. I thought I was going to die. Like, no! But that car resonated with me. I would still love to have one today. I keep watching the Jay Leno videos with him. Then in high school, it became the Porsche 930 Turbo, the early 911 turbos, as they're known. The true Porsche nerds call it the 930 because that was the chassis series, right? For a long time, that was the ultimate car for me. I had a Beetle at the time. My first car was an air-cooled Beetle, and it was painted a Porsche color. It had like the black, cookie color style wheels, the whole thing. It had a little Carrera stripe on it.
It's a Ferdinand Porsche design, so
Well, basically the same chassis, only like one tenth the horsepower. The only problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then around the same time, I guess, and I've carried on with me today, is a favorite really bad but fun cult movie was the Gumball Rally, which is the only true Cannonball movie, I think, which is authentic. It captures the spirit of the original, event in the 1970s. And of course, the 2 lead cars in that, to me, which again were like almost human actors, that they were so legendary, was the AC Cobra, the 427 Cobra, and the Ferrari Daytona convertible, the Cabriolet.
By the way, if you follow Ian on the forum, his avatar is from that film.
Yes, exactly. That's how deep I am into that film. The Mad Hungarian lap chick who rides the little 2-stroke Kawasaki and shivers to death. That's me in my early motorcycling days. There's a lot of parallels
How
there.
dare you not say Herbie? Shame on you.
All right.
I'm a Herbie fan, but yeah.
We got to move on here. Eric, what's your favorite type of food?
I see this 2 ways. My favorite cuisine is Italian. My favorite single food for eating on a dish is a taco.
I said tacos tonight.
We had
I asked this question the other day. Have you ever said no to a taco?
Never.
No. We like Indian. I love Indian.
Yes, me too.
Curry.
I love how you meant
butter chicken tonight. It was really good.
Yeah, Indian food. I love Indian food. Good spice.
Okay, let's move on here. What's the next question, Eric?
So this is actually a series of questions from Nicole in San Francisco. These questions, just because I follow the show, this is from Sarah Spain's podcast called That's What She Said. And she has a segment of the show towards the very end with her guest called The Spanish Inquisition. So these are rapid fire questions. We all get them. So what is a natural talent you'd like to be gifted with? For me, it would be playing the piano flawlessly.
Yeah,
I wish I could play the piano.
I play, but not virtuoso. I would love to be able to
just be able to see music and go, bam, just go.
Just classical,
Right.
Like Oh yeah, I'd love to be able to do that.
Like, is that a G? I don't understand. No, like, no, just be able to sit and
No,
play.
I know what chords are. I can
No,
read them
I'm
out,
just saying,
but-
like, but I'm saying, like, me, I'd be like, okay, what key is this? Okay, hold on, I gotta shift this
Oh
up.
yeah, I know what you mean. How about you, Ian?
Ian, what about
Is
you?
it funny? All three of us musical instruments, guitar.
Yeah.
I absolutely love every form of rock music ever since I was a kid. I mean, I have a little Epiphone and a little cheap amp sitting in the corner of the room that for 20 years. And one day, by God, I'm going to learn to play a photo. But yeah, I would love to do that.
Okay.
What
What's
is
next?
your one desert island album?
Easy for me.
I-
Let's keep
for
the
me-
order. Okay, so it'll be Eric, Trev, Ian. Eric, Trev,
Okay,
Ian. Go.
for me, it's anything by Sarah Bareilles. Anything. It could be her discography. I don't care what it is. I could sing that stuff all the time. Love it.
My desert album. Well, I don't know. I have weird tastes. Arcadia.
The Herbie soundtrack.
Arcadia, So Red the Rose. And Arcadia, if you don't know, is a little side band that Duran Duran did during their years where they broke up. It is an absolute masterpiece of sonic quality. If you've ever, just listen to the album.
You're so emo.
Anyway, no, I'm so 80s.
Ian?
I'm 80s.
That's true, yeah.
Well, my first and always love will be the Beatles. And to me, the penultimate Beatles album is the one they never made it that was re-engineered for the Cirque du Soleil show, Love. That is the closest thing I've ever had to like an LSD mind-altering experience listening to that album. And it still does it to me to this day. The way that they remixed it and brought all of the incredible chords and revolutionary sounds all distilled into one album and like flipped around and joined together. It's just, it's like this musical smorgasbord. I just adore that album.
Cool.
If you could switch lives with anyone for a day, who would it be?
You go first, Eric. That's the rule.
Oh my God. Okay. I wasn't sure if we're keeping the same order or not.
Yeah, always.
That's a hard question. You know what? I'd be very interested to be in Barack Obama's shoes for one day. No specific time frame. Doesn't matter presidency, after now, just to be in his shoes for one day. Because I would imagine he walks into a room and everyone's like, "Hey, Barry."
If I was to switch lives for someone for a day, I don't know. I think it would be something like Steven Spielberg during your movie shoot. I don't know.
Wow, those are both inspired answers. This is the one question that I couldn't come up with an answer for. I don't know if it's a failure of imagination, but I will say I have often wondered if there was one job that I really wondered in my mind, what it is really like to be, and there's been so much spotlight on it in the last few years, is what is it really like to be a U.S. president? So I will just keep that as an open position. I wouldn't pick any one particular president, but just to have that job for a day, God Almighty, I cannot imagine. It must
just for the CIA briefings alone,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Oh my God, what's really going on at Area 51? Come on.
No, that's a CIA installation.
What is the most scared you've ever been? For me, it's quite a lot. I've had hairy moments from childhood all throughout my adult life. The most scared, probably when a long-term relationship you feel like has reached its coda and you know it's coming, but you're not sure. That moment before you find out, that freaks me out.
Really rough. Yeah.
That's like you just realize your life is going to change course very quickly.
I think for me, the scariest I've ever been was probably when I witnessed a friend of mine crash his airplane in the field. And being one of the first people on the scene, and I thought he was dead. That was terrifying, and it actually contributed to me giving up flying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ian?
Mine, I can remember it was like yesterday. It would be, I guess, about 17 years ago now, was when I got a phone call at 4 a.m. telling me that my dad had a massive heart attack and he was on his way to the hospital. And I didn't know if I was going to see him alive again. And I don't know if it's anxiety. It's like a feeling of terror, whatever. I mean, this is a man that I loved dearly, dearly, dearly. And I just remember getting in my car and racing to the hospital. I mean, this is in the middle of the night. It was pouring rain. And I don't think I was... Can I still be prosecuted for this? I don't think I went under 200 kilometers an hour the whole way. I just was pedal to the metal, like just terrified I wasn't going to get to see him. And he had passed about 10 minutes before I got there.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but the start shock of that still resonates with me to this day. The unexpected. I'd had dinner with the night, with some friends with him the night before. Everything was ticky boo, and then the phone rings the next morning, and I just, wow. I mean, it hit me like a sledgehammer. It was just. I mean, I'm fortunate that I haven't really had a lot of scary things happen to me, but boy, that's not a moment I'd care to live again.
Yeah, I can feel it. How are we doing, Eric? Move on.
Yeah. What a transition this is. What do you consider your biggest failure? Man, everything. I think in all seriousness, Nicole, I have a very hard time focusing on my successes. I labor very much on the things that don't work out. I look at my life today as an adult and where I've been. I thought that by now I'd have been married, having at least a child or two, more well-to-do than I am, even though I'm certainly doing okay. And it's hard to be hard on yourself, to be that honest about it. I think I punish myself too much with those things too often. But I think my biggest failure is that I'm not a dad yet. And I've had a lot of friends tell me for a long, long time that'd be a great dad.
You would be a great dad.
And to be 43 and not have had a kid yet, to not have raised someone, to raise a man or a woman, or just to raise a child, to be a good human, to sort of create a better balance in the world. It's hard doing it on your own, but it'd be really great if I could at least raise a kid or two to help kind of even the scales a bit.
I think for me, it's probably two things. Biggest failure would have been probably not recognizing a lot sooner that my true career path should have been mechanical engineering. That was probably the thing. And the other one is probably tying in a little bit what Eric said, is trying to be a little better dad. It's tough during a divorce when one kid lives with the other parent, and there are some differences, and you're not as close. You live far away. I wish I could have been a little better. I mean, we're okay now. It's just those are tough years. So yeah. Ian?
I guess probably not being a better brother. We had such a great time growing up, my sister and I, but I never really put a lot of effort into the relationship. It was just my friends and everybody else was always more important. And as we grew older, it's sort of, we've had a relationship in and out, and I've shared it certainly with moments with you guys here and there, but it all came apart about 5 years ago, and it kind of split up our family. And I could have avoided all of that. It's like, I think there's a little bit of blame on both sides, but I always like to think if I was more attentive and less self-centered, in that relationship, that things would have turned out very, very differently. So no question, that's the one I regret most to this day.
Mm-hmm.
What habit or quality do you think has contributed most to your success? For me, I think it's a quick study. I've had a lot of employers and just even people in general see how quickly I can pick up a stanza in song, or whether it's a job technique or whatever it is. Trevor mentioned this earlier in the show, that a lot of the stuff he knows is self-taught. I'm sort of the same way. I don't read manuals. I've never really read one, but to tell you how, the reason why I don't read manuals, there was once something I forgot what it was I bought, but I bought it and I opened the package. I take out the instructions, and the first thing it says open box. Well, apparently you don't understand how manuals work. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I can't trust this crap. But yeah, I think just being able to sort of self-study, quick study, that I think has propelled me quite far.
I would agree with you on that. That's my same answer. Very quick to learn, like to learn on my own.
Yeah.
It's helped me. I mean, even though I don't have a formal training in the career that I had originally trained for, I've been able to support myself all these years, even without going to college or anything. So,
Ian?
I think it's just my inherent nerdiness. It's like a desperate need to know every single fact and figure about a particular study. Like, I get really OCD on stuff. So obviously with a passion for cars and being able to parlay that into an automotive job, that really helped. And not only being able to absorb all that stuff, but to be able to regurgitate it and make it understandable for other people, I think has really helped a lot along the way. So
I got a great podcast for you if you're into that. It's called Call Me Curious, hosted by yours truly. It's really cool.
I love the show for that very reason. Exactly.
There you go.
Awesome new facts. Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's kind of pick things up here a bit. What is the thing about yourself you'd most like to improve? Oh God, everything. No, it's really two things, and they're sort of related. One is I'd love to be able to forget things more. I've memorized so much stuff and it just stays with me for a long time. I'd love to be able to just kind of like rub things off and just forget about it. And I think number two, and it's just sort of strange to say, I want to be calmer. My emotions are always on a scale of like
a lot of energy.
I live what's called the spinal tap scale of emotions. So everything is an 11. If I'm happy, it's really happy. If I'm sad, it's really sad. I've had self-harm thoughts in the past. I have no trouble admitting that. And I've certainly coped with those things and talked to doctors and others to kind of go through it. I've had some medical traumas as a young kid. And so I don't know if those things are related. Long story short, when I was 2 years old, I had my second seizures due to high fever, and I was apoxic and cyanotic. So I was basically dead. So I was brought back to life. I was resuscitated at 2 years old, and I don't know how much oxygen deprivation I had to know if some of that's led to, brain damage. So be that as it may, I don't know if some of the stuff that I deal with is related to that, but I'm here. But again, everything is an 11. So Elon would love it. Elon would be like, hey, you're a walking version of me. Everything's just an 11. So
I think for me would be I wish I didn't have ADD. I'm self-diagnosed. I'm very hyper-focused on what I'm doing to the point that I ignore absolutely everything else, and I can't remember anything other than what I'm interested in at the given time. That bothers me. I recognize it. My wife knows how to deal with it, but I think that would be the major thing. I wish I could improve.
Yeah.
Oh, mine is so easy. I am the world's worst procrastinator. If I could kill that, oh my God. No, I just, unless it's a burning thing. If it's something I'm passionate about, I'll plan it like it's the D-Day invasion 2 years ahead. But if it's mundane tasks, I'm hopeless. Absolutely hopeless.
There's a great shirt I've seen before. I think you should wear. It's called Procrastinators Unite Tomorrow.
That is so me.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a good one.
I'm just blessed to have Ms. Mad because she's the complete opposite of that. I mean, she's my best partner ever because of that, because she keeps me organized and on track. Otherwise, this train would have derailed a long time ago.
I hope that everyone who's watching or listening, whatever your partner in life may be, whatever that is, whether it's a pet, whether it's a person, whether it's a pet rock, find someone. If you're so lucky as to find someone who sees you with all of your flaws and still says yes, that's a great thing.
Oh yeah, I'll second that.
I'm sort of waiting for Tracy to walk in one day going, I can't. What? Just seriously? No. So, all right. Last question from Nicole. Thank you, Nicole. These are all good questions. What 3 words would you most hope people would use to describe you? Son of a bitch. I guess compassionate.
Absolutely.
Funny.
Yep.
Funny, witty, interchangeable. And compassionate, funny, smart.
I'll agree with that. I know you. 3 words from most people describe you. Hope most people describe you. There's no one single word in English. I'll say it in French. Débrouillard. Ian knows what I'm talking about. Go-getter, like get it done. That would be
driven.
Driven, something like that. Let me see here. What else? Smart, clever.
Okay.
Ian?
I think number 1 is helpful. I'd like to think I'm helpful to people on a lot of different levels. Caring or kind, something of that. I'd like to think I'm empathetic most of the time. and it's something I'd like to be recognized for. It feels good, and not normal, odd, weird. I embrace
Quirky, unusual, all that stuff.
I embrace my inner weirdness, and I hope it brings value somehow to others.
All right, so I do want to get these to Melissa. These are good ones for Melissa. These are rapid fire, really fast. Let's just knock this out in 5 minutes. We can knock this out.
All right.
What is your we're just gonna go a person. We're not gonna go around circle. Just Ian first. What is your favorite word?
I don't know.
Okay. What is your least favorite word?
Frozen. Next.
Okay. What turns you on?
Cars.
What turns you off?
Not having a car.
What sound or noise do you love? And do not say your car.
No. What sound do I love? God. I can't say car. Why can't I say car?
Okay. What is your favorite? Okay. What sound or noise do you hate?
Alarm clocks of any type.
Okay. I thought you were going to say the word impound. What is your favorite curse word? It could be French.
Yeah. No, I my general purpose go-to word, I think that just because it's so incredibly versatile, is the F word.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh, journalism. Absolutely.
Okay. What profession would you not like to do?
Anything repetitive, like accountant or assembly line work. I don't think I would last a day.
Okay. And lastly, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Wow, you made it here in good time.
Okay. All right, Trevor, what's your favorite word? So you've had time to think about this now.
Awesome.
Okay. What is your least favorite word?
Hate.
What turns you on? Okay.
Nice. Yeah.
Her cooking. What turns you off?
What turns me off? Negativity.
Okay. What sound or noise do you love?
Jet engines.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Noisy gasoline cars.
What is your favorite curse word?
The F word, of course.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Flight instructor.
What profession would you not like to do?
Anything having to do with politics.
And if heaven exists, what would God say to you at the pearly gates?
You did good.
Cool.
How about
okay,
Eric?
you guys can.
All right.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, ask me.
Ian, you do it.
Ian.
Okay. So, Mr. Camacho, these ought to be
Yes.
interesting. Such a
Okay.
wordsmith. What is your favorite word?
Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Oh dear.
Of course.
I thought it was
Which I
going to be
can
the
spell.
hippo
Which
word.
I can spell it as fast as I can say it. So yeah.
What is your least favorite word?
Animosity.
What turns you on?
Laughter.
What turns you off?
Violence.
God, you guys have such good answers. Mine sound so awesome. Those are thoughtful answers. What sound or noise do you love?
Children's laughter.
Okay. What sound or noise do you hate?
Children crying.
What is your favorite curse word?
The F word.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Someone on YouTube is going to go, wait, did they just censor it and not even bleep it?
There's
That's
a
crazy.
there's a Netflix series on curse words. It's really good. Watch it.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
really good.
Excellent. Yeah.
No, definitely the F word. The F word to me is the most versatile thing.
Absolutely.
Other than a pair of running shoes. So
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
oh gosh. I definitely would like I said, actor, musician, any one of those.
Okay. And which one would you not like to do?
Be president of the United States of America.
Oh, okay.
I saw how quickly Obama went gray, and I'm like, that job ages you so fast.
Oh yeah.
So
No kidding. No kidding.
Mhm.
All right. Well, then, for the finale, if
Yeah.
heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
sorry, wrong door.
Eric's thought about that one for a while.
I've always known that because I'm an atheist, which is why I find it hilarious.
That's
sorry,
okay.
wrong door.
That's okay. Well, there you go, folks. This is by far the longest podcast we've ever done, but I think in
So
many
much fun.
ways, it's probably the most fun, the most introspective, the most candid that we've ever done. And my hope, of course, if you've lasted this long, is that you've taken something from this, that we're not just, faceless people behind this whole thing. We're actually real human beings with real lives who have real things and real experiences. And part of the Tesla community would understand that, like I said, we're real people behind this whole thing, and we just scratched the surface. I mean, we're talking, many, many years worth of experiences. There's so many other things we could talk about, but I hope you got something out of this. I hope you liked, the podcast. It's a little different from what we normally do, but we thought we'd opened up a little bit, not to preclude we won't do it again in the future, but it's just something fun. It's a little different. This can't just be Tesla stuff all the time, despite the name of the podcast. But anyways, if you like it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, give us a review on iTunes, whatever the case may be. And we'll leave it at that. Actually, we got to do the closer as usual. Where can people find you, Eric, if they want to chat with you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter. The handle is ECFix, ECFIX. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, I have a new podcast called Call Me Curious. Episode 34 just dropped this past Wednesday. It is a weekly podcast where we give you 10 minutes for 10 topics, all random facts and figures, all designed to make your brain go, that's kind of weird. And also to tweet out facts yourself. So if you hear stuff, you like it, available wherever you get your podcast, like, subscribe, review. We're trying to grow the audience a little bit, so I appreciate everyone who's been tuning in. I really continue doing this because it keeps my brain just really, learning some new stuff. So what did we learn this week? We learned that bees can fly higher than Mount Everest. They can go over 25,000 feet above sea level.
What's the point?
Bees. There you go.
Excellent.
See, just facts you can learn. A sloth has more vertebrae in its neck than a giraffe does.
Wow.
See? This is the shit you learn in Call Me Curious. Download, subscribe, rate, review, do it.
Awesome. How about you, Ian?
Well, on Twitter, the handle is @IanPavelko. At the Tesla Owners Online Forum, the handle is Mad Hungarian. Be sure to use the @ symbol when you write Mad Hungarian, so it tags me. If you have a question, I'll be glad to pop up. And finally, if you're looking in the way of EV or Teslaware specifically, you can go to my little store at teespring.com, Mad Hungarian Evolveware, and you will find all of the wares.
Excellent. Well, I guess that leaves me. You can follow me on Twitter. The handle's Tesla Owners Online. Check out the forum, teslaownersonline.com, the absolute friendliest place and awesomest place to talk about Tesla. And I want to say thank you to our sponsors, the guys at Evanex, and our fine friends at Fine Lab Ceramic Coatings. Thanks for watching and listening, guys. We'll see you next time. See ya.
See you guys.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
What he said.